All right, so our first question here is a continuation from yesterday's BloodHound workshop, right? So we built pretty simple signal here. Basically whenever the low of the bar, basically touches, or punches through, penetrates through the lower Bollinger Band, it's going to generate bisignals. So, and only bisignals. So we're going to hook that BloodHound template into BlackBird, and then set up the buy order, and also we have a stop loss as well. All right, so we just have a 10-tick trailing stop loss, pretty simple, right? And no profit target, so it's just a runner, right? So if you're not familiar, when you don't have a profit target, right, you just have a trailing stop loss, no profit target. That's what's nicknamed a runner. So I don't think it's not an official term, but I think the nickname of a runner makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. Let's see. I should also add the Bollinger back to my chart. There we go. All right, there's our Bollinger. So, all right, so let's get building here. So with BlackBird open, first thing we'll do is we'll hook in, the signal source here, right? So that'll be a BloodHound signal from yesterday's workshop file. And then we'll open up the menu here. And the first thing we need to do is load in the template file up here, right? So we can hit the ellipses button. All right, there is yesterday's BloodHound workshop file. We'll just double click on it. And there we go. We can see it's loaded in there. And then the next thing to do is to select which of these logic templates is actually the signals here for the Bollinger. There we go. So the lower B-band signal, that's our entry signal there. Call it good. All right, and that's it. So now we have our entry signals set up there. And so next we need to define or set up, the orders, right? The entry order and the exit order. So this is going to be a limit entry, again, right? A limit entry 12 ticks below the lower Bollinger Band. All right, so now let's open up our entry order here. And so the initial placement, right? We're going to open up the initial placement, and we're not using, right, bar prices here. What we are using is an indicator value. And so let's go and replace the SMA with the Bollinger, and we can just search for BOL. There we go. There's our Bollinger. And I'm just using the default settings here. And so now we need to set up or select, which plot do we want our entry order, to be placed at. And so that will be the lower band, right, for a long. So for a long, we're using the lower band. All right, so as you can tell, this is a counter trend type of system here. So, all right, so we have the Bollinger set up. We have our lower band selected. And so now we need that 12 tick offset. So, right, and since it's 12 ticks below, obviously that would be a negative value, right? So we want to subtract 12 ticks, to get 12 ticks below the lower band. And that is it. So that's it for the entry. Now that is just for the initial placement. So, what happens if the order doesn't get picked up on that bar? Well, then we probably want that order to keep following the Bollinger there. So let's set up a trailing rule so that the limit entry order keeps following the lower band, right? So on the trailing actions tab, we're going to set the mode to custom here, right? So we're going to create a custom trailing rule for that entry order. So all right, so let's add a trailing rule, and we can give this a name here if we want. There we go. So we're going to follow that lower Bollinger Band. So there is no trigger here, because triggers basically look for various conditions to happen first, and then the trailing will take place. But we want that entry order to just follow that lower Bollinger Band immediately. So there's no triggers there. And so we just need to go into the action, and the action is what moves the order around, right? So in the move to here, we're going to adjust this so that the entry order gets moved to an indicator value. So again, we want to keep following that Bollinger. So we need to switch to an indicator value here. And again, the indicator is the Bollinger. There we go. Select that Bollinger. And again, right, we're using the lower band here, right, the lower band for long signals. All right, so our Bollinger setup. And so again, the last thing we need to do is add in that 12-tick offset, like so. And if you notice, this menu here looks exactly like the menu that we used in the initial placement, remember? So, all right, and then finally, the repeat, right? So we want this trailing rule to keep repeating, so that way the entry order keeps following the lower band for as long as necessary. And so, oh shoot, I just hit the delete by accident. So hold on, let me recreate that again. So, if the repeat is left on none, then basically this trailing rule will execute only one time, right? And then that's it. So the entry order would move to the Bollinger on one bar and one bar only. So, but we want this rule to keep repeating, right, until that order gets filled. So we'll set the repeat to indefinitely. All right, so now that finalizes our entry order, and now we can move on to the stop loss here. All right, so for the stop loss down below here, we actually have a quick list here. So you can see from this quick list, we could choose a 10-tick fixed stop loss, ATR, whatever you want here. But we're going to go down to the trailing menu, and there's a 10-tick trailing one there. So we can just select that, and we're done. So, right, this stop loss trailing doesn't have anything extra to it, so we don't need to make any adjustments to the stop loss here. So, but just to take a quick look at what was done. So the initial placement here, we can see, right, it's taking the entry price and then minus 10 ticks. All right, so the entry price of the trade, and then you just subtract 10 ticks, right? All right, simple 10-tick offset. And then the trailing actions here, this is slightly different. So because this is just a fixed kind of simple 10-tick trailing, the mode is actually set to standard trailing, right? So and so with the standard trailing, there's no need to build a trailing rule here. So that's already kind of built into BlackBird here. So the only time you need to go and use a custom trailing actions here is when you need to create kind of unique, and more customized type of trailing behaviors. So let's just put it back on standard. So, all right, and there we have it. So with that, let's see, I don't think we're gonna get any signals here. Yeah, let's see here. All right, let's switch this over to a 30-second chart. All right, hold just a moment here. I'm gonna have to switch my data feeds here. So let me shut down BlackBird. Switch my data feeds. All right, let's see here. Now, when you're using, BloodHound signals here, you'll notice, right, there's a blue button here for BloodHound, and the blue button, is telling you the reason why it's blue is because it's coming from BlackBird, right? So the product color scheme for BlackBird is blue here. So, and we can see that, right? We have a signal here, but if you look from the drop-down menu, it's for the RSI. So we actually want to switch this to the signals that BlackBird's using here, right? And that's the lower Bollinger Band signals there. There we go. Now next, let's turn on the auto trailing button here. And let's see here. Let me just double check the logic here. Make sure I don't have a signal blocker connected. Okay, good. No signal blocker. All right. So, all right. So now all I should need to do is just pull the trend down, and pull price down into the Bollinger there, and we should get a signal. All right. Well, this might take another bar. Yeah, looks like Ninja's trend slider here doesn't move fast enough. I'm not sure if it doesn't look like price is going to get down there fast enough. No. All right. Well, I think this is the first time Ninja's simulated data feed has ever failed me here. No, it's just not going to get down there. All right. Well, yeah, so we're not able to test this one here. And so what I'm going to do is temporarily modify the solver here that's generating those signals and set it to both. So there we go. So now we can see some short signals there, and maybe we might get a short signal. Yeah, this is just going to take too long, unfortunately. So, all right, so let's open this up here. Actually, let me make sure I put that solver back to the way it was. There we go. So longs only. And so let's just review this one last time here. All right, so we loaded in, all right, our BloodHound file and selected the logic template here, that generates the signals. So there was a secondary question here that was asked about modifying the system here. So so that BlackBird will submit a market order in real time. So we'll cover that variant here in just a second here. So, but yeah, getting back to the review here, right? So we loaded in our BloodHound file, selected the logic template with the trade signals, and then we set up our entry order, which is a limit entry order. Let's go to the options tab here, right? So it's a limit entry, right? And it's being placed on the Bollinger lower band, minus 12 ticks. And then just in case, right, we have the, just in case this entry order doesn't get filled, on the bar that actually touches the band, then, I added a trailing roll. So this will move that entry order with the lower Bollinger Band here. And really, this trailing roll just consists of two components here, the action and the repeat here, right? So typically, this is pretty typical with entry orders. So if you want an entry order to follow some kind of indicator, such as a moving average or the Bollinger, right, then it's typical that there is no trigger. No triggers needed for that. So you just go in and set up the action, all right, so that the action is, set to utilize, whatever indicator you want the order to follow, right? So again, there's the Bollinger Band, with a 12-tick offset like so. And then we have the repeat set to indefinitely. So that just means that as every bar closes, right, and the Bollinger Band, recalculates on that new bar, then then BlackBird will update that entry order's price, right, to match wherever the Bollinger Band is at. All right, so now let's, oh, look at that. There we go. All right. We actually had an order placed there while I was saving that file name. So there we have it. Let's see here. All right, so next I will I'll show the same question but with a slight alteration in the entry design. So currently, as we can see, the entry is designed to go in as a limit order, right, and then just wait to be picked up. So, but in yesterday's workshop, it was asked, can this be redesigned so that a market order is placed when price actually moves down, when price actually gets down to that 12 ticks below the lower Bollinger Band, right? So as soon as price does make that extended move down, then submit a market entry order. So that way you don't have a limit entry order, hanging out there. So, and yeah, so that can be done here. So let's make, let's see here. So we're going to redesign this here. And actually, let's just, let's just start from scratch. All right, let's get rid of that order. There we go. And let's pull up the question here. All right, start this variant of a question over again here. So instead of a limit entry, 12 ticks, what we're going to do, what this variant does, is it actually waits for the low of the bar, to actually go 12 ticks below the lower band, right? So we're actually waiting for the market to actually extend down, right, 12 ticks below the lower band, and then place a market order, not a limit order, but a market order instead. Now, to do that, because because this variation is monitoring price in real time, that requires NinjaTrader's calculate setting to be changed here. I need to go into the strategy window here. Right. So we're going to disable BlackBird. And so now we can see that now NinjaTrader allows us to make adjustments here to the settings, right? So if you want to monitor price in real time, you have to change NinjaTrader's calculate setting here. And so let's use the either on each tick or on price change, either one. So on price change is requires less processing power, less CPU power. So we'll go with that one, and then we'll enable it. All right, so now that change to the calculate setting allows BloodHound to now monitor the bar that's forming, right? So now let's get BlackBird open. So let's load in our BloodHound signals again. There we go. All right, and select the logic template for that. So yeah, so it's going to be this one, the low, 12 ticks below the lower band. So that logic template is the one that waits for price to come down before it generates the signal there. All right, so there we go. So that's our BloodHound signals for this variation. And so now let's set up the entry order. So this time it'll be a market entry when price gets down that low. And that's it, right? Obviously, market entries can't trail. They just instantly get filled. So just so the entry is a lot simpler. And the stop loss, again, we'll just pick that 10-tick trailing stop loss, and that's it. We're done. So this was definitely a lot simpler to set up there. Less settings here to work with or to deal with. So, and that's it. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to get any signals. Yeah, a 1-minute chart is probably just too fast for this, especially on the ES. And remember to adjust your logic template up top here. There we go. Oh, yeah, that would have been a short. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a couple of times that price has managed to break 12 ticks outside the band there. So it doesn't happen very often. So, all right, so that's that variation. Pretty simple. And of course, remember to turn on the auto trailing there. So, all right, so just a quick review. So the first thing is, right, we had to open up BlackBird. And so first step to setting up this variation here that will submit market order in real time is you have to change BlackBird's calculate setting there, right? So that way BlackBird and BloodHound inside of BlackBird, will react to price in real time there. So that's the first thing, is adjust your calculate setting, for that, and then load in your BloodHound signals, right? Obviously. And then a market order, pretty straightforward, nothing fancy there. And we're just using the standard 10 tick trailing stop loss. Again, real simple. So this variation here was really, really easy to do. So, all right. So yeah, this one I'm not going to save out because it was just too easy to build. So, all right. Well, let me take a look, see if there's any follow-up questions on this. So no, I don't see any follow-up questions.